A new potentially habitable Earth-sized planet has been discovered as little as 40 light years away, meaning even with our current technology, we could reasonably reach this planet. So it was a PhD student who discovered a planet. It's called Gliese 12b. And we'll go ahead and play the little animation here. It was an Australian PhD student, and they were kind of doing, as they describe, back of the envelope type calculations. They're saying the size of the planet is very slightly smaller than Earth, but honestly very close, and that it has the right conditions to have liquid water on the surface. It's in the habitable zone away from the sun, and that it most likely has a Venus-like atmosphere because, and this is where it's a little bit less exciting, the surface of the planet is 42 degrees Celsius, which is about 107 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really, really hot. So it's very likely that the student pictured here has discovered another Venus and not another Earth. But to be honest, we won't really know until we go there with some sort of satellite and probe and scope it out. And it would be really nice if there were a habitable Earth-sized planet within as little as 40 light years. My goodness, I think that's barely further away than Alpha Centauri. So I think that's extremely impressive. At 40 light years away, that means if we could travel close to the speed of light, we could reach it in about 100 years. With our current technology, we could reach it in about 200. I think that's extremely cool. I would love to one day, I guess I'll never live this long, be able to visit other worlds and other Earths, or even if it's not perfect, maybe it's terraformable. I still think it's a huge and important discovery. So very fun. Another space fact for you. We're finding more and more planets these days. We used to think planets were very rare, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. Precedents are being set today as the robocaller behind the AI Biden deepfake is facing multiple felony charges and a huge FCC fine of over $6 million. So the person that spoofed Joe Biden's voice to make these fake calls was political consultant Steve Kramer. He has been charged with voter suppression and with impersonating a candidate, both of which are felonies. In case you're unfamiliar, what he did is he used an online program to create a deep fake of President Joe Biden. Then he spoofed his number to make it look like it came from a different number. I believe it was a local Democratic Party office, and then called about 25,000 people from a fake-looking Democratic Party office pretending to be Joe Biden to tell them misinformation and to tell them to save your vote for the election in November so that they would not go vote in the primary, therefore disrupting the primary process. Now, he says that this was not a crime. He says that there's no precedent for this, that this hasn't been done before. But the Department of Justice, the Attorney General of the state of New Hampshire, and the FCC all very much so disagree. He got 13 felony counts of voter suppression and 13 misdemeanor counts of impersonation of a candidate. The company that allowed the deepfake shut it down almost immediately. The FCC also proposed a $6 million fine against Kramer, citing an alleged violation of the Truth in Caller ID Act because he spoofed it. And the agency also proposed a $2 million fine against Lingo Telecom, which is the carrier that operated the phone lines, also for violating the Caller ID Act. So the FCC has already banned AI-generated voices in robocalls, or they did so shortly after his incident. And on top of this, the FCC may soon require political advertisements to disclose the use of AI in TV and radio spots. However, this is going to be an extremely controversial and difficult thing to prove, if I'm not mistaken. So the government, the powers that be, are trying their best to adapt to new technology and get ahead of the wave of misinformation that AI and deepfakes are probably going to bring to our upcoming election. But I gotta say, the punishment here seems very appropriate. The guy literally tried to disenfranchise voters and trick them into not voting. So I feel like he should be facing the charges and fines that he is. Young people's use of diabetes and weight loss drugs is up over 600%. And when I first read this article, I kind of freaked out, imagining Generation Z and Gen Z Alpha had a huge weight problem that was contributing to type 2 diabetes. But this isn't quite going where you think it is. They're all GLP-1 drugs, and their prescription rate and dispensing rate has gone up rapidly since 2020. You probably know these as Ozempic and Wegovy. They're extremely popular for weight loss. And what you can see in the chart right here is that the amount of people getting prescriptions for these drugs has skyrocketed, but especially so for women. In the last 3 or 4 years, 5 times more women are on this drug than before. And you would say, well, are they overweight? Do they have diabetes? The answer is no. This is something popular for 18 to 25-year-olds to use just to lose or maintain weight. It is unfortunately a medication that is probably being abused because actual rates of medical obesity and diabetes aren't that different than previous generations, at least not 5 or 6 times different. Rather, these drugs are being abused at an incredible rate, and young people are finding a way to get prescriptions for them, which is honestly very sad, and I do not know what the consequences of a long-term use of this drug are. I didn't actually look them up, but I do know that there's almost no drug on the planet that you can use long-term without consequences, and especially if you didn't necessarily medically need it in the first place. Good news for young men out there, as we are one step closer to developing a male birth control pill. There was a breakthrough in a new type of medication that safely switches off sperm production for a temporary period of time. It is non-hormonal, reversible, and non-toxic. So you can take this for a short period of time. It won't affect your hormones, and when you stop, it won't alter your system in any meaningful way, and it also won't make you sick. As you'll see later in the article, it doesn't build up in your liver, kidneys, brains, etc. So this is a compound known as serine/threonine kinase 33, or STK33. I wanted to say, oh man, if you did it M as in male, it would be MSTK, like Mystery Science Theater, but that would be really too fun. Anyway, so what they decided to do is test this drug out in the mice model, and they discovered in the mice model, you can see on the right-hand side, these little swimmers are not wiggling so healthy compared to the control sample. So it seems very effective at reducing fertility in male mice. And most importantly, the mice did not show any signs of toxicity. It did not accumulate in the brain, did not alter testes size, and the effect was reversible. You could just simply stop taking this and the mice would be fertile again. And this is much better than previous things like gel injections, ultrasound pulses, and other binders and inhibitors that do other things in your body. So it's good to see that this is safe. It's good to see that it's a step closer. And that might make things like vasectomies and other types of surgeries a thing of the past.